Alright, so peep this. The moon and stars are out totally lighting up this massive castle in the middle of nowhere. It's got this fire blue roof that just melts into the night sky. This whole joint, it's the Emure family's crib. Yeah, the Emirs from the Osiris Empire, and boom, we're flash forwarding to a rager at that same castle. Inside, it's this crazy bougie hall with a giant gold chandelier, and everyone's just vibing at some huge shindig. But then the whole party vibe gets nuked by this loud thump of a cane and dead silence. Everyone just clammed up. Then some herald guy is like, yo, the prince of the Osiris Empire is in the house. The one who's like second in line to be king and all that. So this dude, Prince Kyle Emure, just breezes through the curtains with this hella chill smile. As he walks, all the fancy nobles are bowing, giving him major respect. The prince then just randomly turns and sticks his hand out to someone hiding behind the curtain. And whoever's back there is thinking, OMG, I did asterisk, not asterisk, have this on my bingo card like ever. That I'd be the one stuck next to asterisk, this asterisk dude in front of literally everyone. Then this pale hand kind of creeps out from behind the curtain all slow and nervous-like. The prince just snatches her wrist and straight up yanks her out next to him, and it's this girl with long red hair and a total knockout dress. Her face is a big fat WTF from being pulled like that. But the prince, he's just smirking at her, the absolute menace. The girl's totally bugging, thinking this was so not in the script. It's like a spotlight just slammed down on the two of them. He's on the left looking all buff and confident, serving major main character energy. She's on the right looking kinda shy with her eyes closed, but still a certified 10 out of 10. In the background, the nobles start gossiping again like, no way is that for real, is that Tara Elias? Apparently they were totally shook by her glow-up seeing what a baddie she'd become. So Tara gets visibly pissed and tells the prince, yo, if these clowns are gonna talk smack about me, they could at least try to be subtle. I can hear every single word, my dudes. Kyle just side-eyes her like, could you maybe crack a smile cause your face is given? I'm about to square up with a noble, and you're supposed to be my date, remember? So she spins around and slaps on this super fake smile. It was so stiff it looked more like a threat than a hello. No cap, she looked like she was plotting a whole homicide. She's like, this good enough for ya, and tells him to stick to his end of the bargain. The prince just hits her with this smug little smirk. The whole time she's thinking, this was not the plan, especially not with this guy. Anyway, let's dip from this party drama for a sec. Back to the present in a room that's like kinda clean. Someone's flopping around in bed muttering, oh, this is so freaking annoying. She snatches a pillow screaming that the author who wrote this trash story should be cancelled. She's absolutely flaming the title Chronicles of Vocaria. So basic. Then we see who's been doing all the whining. It's a girl on the bed with long red hair, but she's packing some serious extra pounds. A total 180 from the girl we just saw in that flash forward. She keeps on ranting like literally anyone would die to be isekai'd as some hot, powerful princess and empress, or even a sick villainess. Flopping back on the bed, she's like, so why out of all those fire options did I get stuck in the body of a fat girl? She gets so heated she just decks the mattress. Then it hits her the character's fate in the story. Born into a family that's totally cursed and basically set up to be hated forever, she couldn't help but lose her crap. 'Cause in the book, the character she's possessing gets her head yeeted by a guillotine. She's internally screaming, just completely spiraling. She's clutching her head, having no clue what to do. And right in the middle of her meltdown, someone knocks on the door. A maid pops in and asks, you still in bed? The maid rips open the curtains and says she needs to get a move on. Then there's this super long cringy silence while our girl is just frozen hands on her head jaw on the floor. The maid starts laying into her, saying she's gotta get ready and can't just be a lazy bum all day. Tara's still dying of cringe from being caught. Asks, why not, I'm tired and I really don't feel like going out. The maid, while fixing the sheets, warns her that everyone's been summoned to the meeting room. Our girl just scoffs. She's like, what's that got to do with me? It's not like they actually wanted asterisk me asterisk there. The maid gets all awkward and is like, actually the count specifically asked for you. She bolts upright. She's so shook she starts stuttering, just letting the maid do her thing while her mind is going a mile a minute. The girl she got reborn as was named Tara Elias. She was 18 years old and had this habit of stammering when she got nervous. She realized this whole situation was super trippy and new. Her new body, the stutter, even being some noble's kid. Everything was just different. Before getting isekai'd into Tara's life, she was a 33-year-old lady from Seoul, South Korea. She was a screenwriter and she ended up getting unalived while grabbing a bite after work. Next thing she knows, she wakes up in this new life. Meanwhile, the maid is helping her stuff herself into a blue dress. She checks herself out in the mirror, watching the maid do her hair and just staring at her new bod. It's been 3 months since she woke up here. In that time, she'd managed to drop from 102 kilos down to 92. But it still felt like super basic. With my maid's help, I finally bounced from my room and headed downstairs. Apparently the OG Tara Elias, whose body I'm currently crashing in, was a total hermit in the novel. I was like, is this how this whole reincarnation thing is supposed to go down? My memories and this bodies are totally mashing up and my habits are getting all kinds of weird. Then I got to this door where some butler was just posted up. The butler gave me this super extra bow, and the doors just swung open. I was seriously bugging out, because I've never been summoned like this, not in my last life or this one. Stepping into the room, I saw this massive table with a bunch of people already just chilling. I legit swallowed hard because I've never been in a meeting this official looking before. Then two of them sitting there started talking smack to me. This dude and some girl literally started laughing in my face. I was thinking, why am I even here? And the guy was being a total jerk, asking if I suddenly decided to care about the family name or something, since I'd apparently ghosted every other meeting. The girl was Tara Elias, the 17-year-old youngest daughter, and the other tool was Jason Elias, the 27-year-old second son. I only remembered this dude as a total vulture, always trying to yoink the firstborn spot after the real heir bit the dust like 7 years ago. I scoped out the rest of the crew at the table. First off, an older woman, Chloe Elias, the third kid, and the certified brainiac of the family, a total girl boss. As I got to the table, a butler legit pulled my chair out for me. I checked out the last person there, some dude with brown hair and a super serious vibe. His name was Logan Elias, 23 years old and studying at some military academy. That was pretty much the only thing I could remember about him. I muttered to myself that this was like only the second time I'd ever even seen the guy. He just glanced away completely unbothered. My nerves started kicking in, realizing he totally caught me staring. Still whispering, I was wondering when the count was gonna roll up. Then my head whipped around when I heard everyone suddenly shoot up at the same time. Seeing them, I awkwardly scrambled to my feet. In the doorway, this old dude with a cane appeared. He was staring ahead, looking all intense. That's Lloyd Elias, 57 years old, the count and head of House Elias, the fifth most powerful family in the whole empire. He shot me this ice-cold glare, and I nervously looked away. I mean, in this new life, he's my dad. Yikes. The guy sat down and a butler slid his chair in for him. He asked if everyone got the memo the palace sent out to all the houses. I was totally clueless and shook. Meanwhile, everyone else answered yes in perfect unison like some creepy choir. And they were all sucking up, calling him Your Excellency, to show how much they respected him. The count explained that the empire claimed they were just looking for some new government paper pushers. But he said that everyone had to know that was just a cover to find which family could produce a new heir to the throne. My hands balled into fists. I was so on edge. I swallowed hard and thought, oh great, here comes the part of the story where House Elias totally faceplants and gets wrecked. The count kept going, saying our family was super tight with the imperial family, and that we helped a ton with the empire's glow-up. He then got all sentimental, saying House Elias had maybe lost some of its shine and wondered if things would be different if that one kid hadn't. You know, checked out early. I looked at him with my head down, trying to rack my brain about which kid he meant, but I was drawing a total blank. He just kept on talking, saying our house had never managed to produce a consort for the prince, the next heir. But that was all about to change. The count slammed his fist on the table. Then he yelled that he believed they finally had a shot. I mean, the oldest son from House McQueen is already the second scribe, and the second son from House Barra is an assistant to Princess Margaret, who's third in line for the throne. He said he just didn't get how they were the only major house with nobody chilling in the imperial palace. He was so pissed at people saying House Elias was more like a business than a noble family. He called it the biggest L of his life. Then he announced that whichever one of them from House Elias could pass the test and snag the honor of being the empire's first scribe would get his title and one of his properties, Pantheon over in the west. All his kids were totally shook, and I almost dropped an F-bomb in my head. A butler cut in, announcing that lunch was served and the meeting would continue after telling everyone to head to the dining room. Everybody was whispering to each other, still trying to process what just went down. I dipped out of there looking super stressed. Back in my room, I was furiously scribbling in a notebook, my food completely forgotten. I thought out loud that the prize my dad, the count, was offering was like 1/3 of all of House Elias's cash, and we're the 5th richest family in the empire. On top of that, Pantheon is in a super prime location right near the Duchy of Khan, which is where all the fancy luxury goods come through. So whoever runs Pantheon would basically have a monopoly on selling all that bougie stuff. Chewing on my pen, I realized this was pretty much the golden ticket to becoming the next heir of House Elias. And I would be a total idiot not to shoot my shot. Just then, my maid popped in asking if I was gonna go to lunch. I told her I wasn't really feeling it and just wanted to grab some snacks. The maid saw the literal mountain of cakes and sweets and gave me a look like I was insane for calling it some snacks. As she started stacking the plates, she asked why I'd called for her, thinking the maid was just trying to score some more snacks. Tara was all like, I just hit me up when lunch is done, and the maid was totally chill about it. The second she was alone, Tara was like, ugh, for real, the entire Elias fam is the villain of this story. Like, she had to gatekeep the royal court from them no matter what. And as she was stress eating a sandwich, it suddenly clicked. There was no way any of them were gonna fumble a bag this huge, which left her totally drawing a blank on her next move. Meanwhile, back at the lunch table, Jason was like, Dad, are we seriously just gonna ghost all our business partners? And the count clapped right back, saying that whoever actually crushes this scribe exam better have the brains to juggle all their business stuff so they wouldn't have to drop a single deal. And Tara was just thinking that Jason, bless his cotton socks, wasn't exactly packing a full deck. We're talking a grade A himbo. His whole personality was just schmoozing for his future CEO of everything era. Then Logan pops his hand up and hits his dad with a question. He asked if he could speedrun his graduation so he could start the grind for this test. The count was just like bet, and told him he'd pull some strings with the headmaster to get him graduated by next month. Tara was thinking, I literally cannot vibe check this dude. 'cause his face was serving absolute poker face. After that, Chloe raised her hand to get a word in. She wanted to know what the timeline was for the palace to actually choose the new scribe. He said it'd probably take like 2 to 3 years, since they were all betting the current king was gonna peace out sometime around then. Meanwhile, back in her room, Tara, who was in the middle of writing down all her spicy takes on her siblings, just completely froze. She'd literally just scribbled that Chloe was a solid bet and that Logan had like 0 thoughts behind those eyes. And then it slammed into her this was legit the exact plot from the book. That in 3 years, the king would kick the bucket and she had exactly that long to fix the absolute train wreck that was House Elias's future. Her heart started going a mile a minute just thinking about it, right up until a knock came at her door. It was just someone letting her know lunch was a wrap and she could head down. She took a huge breath, stood up, and was suddenly in her main character era. She knew exactly what chapter of this bonkers novel her life had just turned to. So she started making her way downstairs, taking it one step at a time with the maid helping her. Then of course Arya shows up, and the maid reading the room perfectly whispered that she was about to dip. Arya then came barreling down holding up her dress, her heels making a huge racket. Tara was shook and tried to get out of the way, but Arya just let out a little laugh and was like, "Scoot," before she straight up shoulder checked her. Thrown completely off balance, Tara almost took a massive L, but grabbed the railing at the last second. She was like, "Did you seriously just do that on purpose?" Arya, plastering on this super fake sweet smile, was all, "OMG, I didn't even see you, my bad sis, can you forgive me?" Leaning on the railing for dear life, Tara was like, "Am I actually supposed to fall for that weak sauce excuse?" Arya, not giving a single heck, just sashayed away like it was nothing. Tara was fuming, already cooking up a revenge plot for that little stunt. Back in the meeting, the Count asked if there were any other questions. Arya immediately switched on her "I'm just a sweet innocent baby" mode, and asked if she was like maybe too young for the test. Her dad's face totally melted, and he told her not to sweat it, saying this wasn't just about finding some new paper pusher for the palace. They were also low-key scouting potential wives for the new king, so she absolutely had to be in the running. Arya kept the whole innocent act going for their dad, saying she'd do whatever he thought was the right move. Meanwhile, Tara was thinking back to what she'd written in her totally normal notebook and not a burn book, which basically called Arya a two-faced little monster who's a total phony in front of their dad. When she saw her dad start to get up and leave, Tara panicked. She knew she couldn't just sit on her hands and let the book's disaster plot happen for real. Even though she was internally screaming, Tara shot her hand up and asked if they could choose their own tutors for the test prep. Her dad spun around and gave her this mega judgmental stare, and was basically like, "You're seriously gonna try and get in on this?" She grabbed her dress, trying to play it cool. Tara, even though her voice was doing this little shaky thing, said that he was the one who announced that anyone in the Elias family could throw their hat in the ring. The Count stroked his chin, making a big show of thinking it over. He had to admit that, yeah, he did say that. But right as he was about to pull some lame excuse out of his hat for why she was an exception, Tara jumped in and cut him off. She demanded a fair chance, reminding him that she was an Elias too. Her siblings instantly started whispering to each other, probably roasting her outfit and the audacity she was showing, but her dad told everyone to zip it. The whole table went quiet. With every single eye on him, the Count spoke up again, asking Tara what she'd do if she were in his shoes as the big boss of the family. Even with sweat basically pouring down her face, Tara looked her dad dead in the eye and said that if she were him, he'd be kind of forced to say yes to her joining in. He asked her why on earth he should do that. Tara shot back that it's because he's supposed to play fair with all his kids. Her dad slapped a hand on his forehead, looking so over it, and basically said that even if that was the case, she's never contributed anything to the Elias brand. Giving her the same opportunity would be a massive insult to everyone else. She tried to come back at him, saying that House Elias only works because everyone has each other's backs. So they just had this super awkward, intense stare down while the other siblings kept on whispering. They were all completely floored by her sudden backbone, probably wondering where she suddenly got the nerve to sass their dad like that. Looking mega annoyed, Lloyd Elias told everyone to shut their traps again. He asked if she was for real trying to lecture him about trust. Tara took a deep breath, put a hand over her heart, and said that trust and power are basically a 2-for-1 deal. And as the guy in charge, he needs to be a man of his word. Then she stared him right in the eyes. She was all like, "I swear I won't blow it, just give me one chance to prove myself." The Count gets up looking dead serious and goes, "Hold on, has it actually been 3 months?" She was a little shook but replied, "Yep, 3 months since I woke up in this joint." The Count starts heading for the door, and on his way out he's like, "All right, since you're so gung-ho about being legit and earning trust, you better be ready for all the heavy baggage that comes with it." He turns and shouts for the butler to bring his cane. Then the Count's like, "We're done here for today. Go talk to the butler about picking out your tutors." Everyone's just like, "Okay, bet," and the Count pieces out. You can totally see Chloe getting up and spilling some tea in the background. A little later, still at the Elias crib, Tara's wiping sweat from her forehead with her arm, looking totally stressed. She's muttering, "Man, I was sweating buckets, but thank God my whole spiel actually worked." She's got this massive axe in her hands, and her mind zaps back to that meeting. She's cringing hard, thinking she way overshared. As she winds up the axe, she's like, "Well, can't take it back now, what's done is done." But right as she's about to swing, some voice from off-screen chimes in, "Yo, that is so not how you use an axe." He calls her lady, and she hits him with some major side-eye still holding the axe high. Then this totally jacked, dark-skinned dude shows up and is all, "For real, how many times do I gotta show you how to hold that thing?" He grabs his own axe and with one clean swing shows her the proper form like, "You gotta hold it." "Lower on the handle for more power." Tara's like, "Oh, I knew that, but you can tell the axe feels like it weighs a ton that way." She's literally trembling from how heavy it is. And while she's trying to get it together, the guy's like, "You're gonna mess yourself up holding it like that." She whips around completely pissed and snaps, "Just shut it, you're giving me a migraine." But then plot twist, she starts to wobble and completely eats it, landing flat on her butt. She turns away totally mortified, while the dude just gives her this look that's half "you're hopeless" and half "man, I feel for you." Still on the ground gasping for air, she starts complaining about her new body again. Like, of all the characters I could have responded as it had to be Tara. The instructor just screams at her, "Quit your whining and give me 5 laps around the yard stat." She scrambles up and starts running while he just stands there watching. She's totally winded, but low-key, she's happy her dad at least caved on the whole tutor thing. I mean, she has to completely turn her future around and dodge a guillotine in the next 3 years, so she has to stay on her grind to survive. Plus, she needs to rack up all the allies and connections she can. Tara turns with this huge grin thinking, it's a good thing I've already got Bernard on my side, and everything is going exactly as planned. Meanwhile, Bernard the instructor is just staring at her like she's completely lost her mind. Flashback to 2 months ago. Bernard's asking Tara, what are you even on about?" And she's like, "You heard me. I want you to be my knight and teach me all the army's secret fighting techniques." Bernard's super weirded out asking, "But why me though?" She can't think of a good excuse on the spot, so she's just like, "It's no biggie, you just have to train me every day." But for real in her head, Tara knows this dude is future general material, and she'd be a complete moron not to get on his good side now. Every little advantage counts. You know, Bernard just facepalms, still totally baffled, like why would she want to get trained like some basic foot soldier? She's kinda nervous, but she's like, "Look, I'll make it worth your time, you've got nothing to lose." Trying to convince him it's just normal army training. He's not buying it and says no, telling her to find someone else, cause his only job is to fight on the front lines. After he shuts her down again, Tara decides it's time to, sweeten the pot. Bernard turns back to her and she just tosses a small pouch at him. He's still holding his axe, so he has to yank the bag open with his teeth. Inside, there's this mysterious white powder. Tara's like, "So about those feudal duties you bailed on 2 months ago." Okay, now she's got his full attention. She tells him the powder is amazing for headaches, stomach aches, all that jazz. Then she drops the bomb. "I hear you've got some ongoing stomach problems." She's like, "Your stomach is basically betraying you, which is a really bad look for a knight." And you can see him just dying inside. But she's completely clueless and just keeps going. She even says she heard someone call him 10 trips a day because he's always booking it to the knight's latrine. Bernard is literally tearing up from humiliation and is like, "Are you finished? Even for you, that was a low blow." But Tara just claps back. "You could never afford this on your knight's salary." And then she's like, "Some guy, Sir Oliver, probably the family doctor, said that after a year of taking this all your issues will just vanish." So he closes the bag of medicine. His face is bright red, and he mutters that he needs to think it over. Tara just turns her back and is like, "Fine, say no if you want. There are plenty of other knights I can hit up." His eyes dart between her and the miracle powder in a total panic, and before she can even take 2 steps, he screams, "Fine, I'll do it!" And then Tara gets this totally terrifying, evil mastermind grin on her face. Everything had gone exactly according to her master plan. She turns back to Bernard with a genuine smile this time and tells him she'll hook him up with the medicine and some cash for his troubles. So flash forward to today. Tara's completely covered in dirt from training, but she can't stop cracking up because she's thinking, I already know how this whole story ends. Even though if she's being honest with herself, the story was super short and got canceled after like 60 episodes. But she's just trying to gas herself up that everything's gonna be fine. Meanwhile, watching from inside the palace as Tara kneels in the yard cackling like a total psycho, is her own dad. So the Count was kicking it with his butler, right? And the butler's like, "Yo, word on the street is Tara's been grinding on her writing like she totally leveled up these past 3 months." The Count's all, "Yeah, I've noticed she's improved." He just wasn't ready for her to go full-on galaxy brain. Then the butler hits him with, "So get this, Oliver. Her doc says she's a-okay, no weird side effects, and her stutter has chilled out a ton, even though her workout game is still kinda weak." Lloyd's just like, "This is a huge L. Who even set her up with that knight?" And the butler's like, "Nah, man, she scouted him herself." Then he spills all the tea on this knight. Dude's name is Bernard, he's 23. Apparently he mains an axe. Became a knight like a year ago and just hit swordrunner rank, whatever the heck that means. The Count was shook like, why would a legit knight waste his time teaching some rando noble girl how to fight? The butler was right there with him, totally clueless. From the courtyard, they could hear Tara just screaming and laughing like a complete psycho. Her dad just gives her this epic side-eye and tells a servant to pretty much keep her on a leash. Cut to her room. Tara was starving legit, about to go full hangry monster mode from skipping dinner and working out at the butt crack of dawn. She couldn't believe she'd already dropped 2 whole kilos since she started training. So on a total whim, she yoinks a cookie off the table, and right as she's about to slam it into her mouth, she panics and drops it. Turns out someone left a whole plate of cookies in her room, the ultimate act of sabotage. Literally a dieter's worst nightmare. She just screams for her maid, Beth. Beth comes barreling in like, what's the 5-alarm fire? And just finds Tara trembling and backing away from the cookie plate like it's gonna blow. Stuttering Tara's like, I did not request these satanic snacks. Beth gets all flustered and is like, that's just the snack plate the staff brings around to all the nobles every day. Tara is having an epic stare down with these cookies, trying with all her might not to waste her entire morning workout on one moment of weakness. She literally snaps her head away so she can't see them and declares, I never want to see these delicious little devils in my room again. From now on, this is a strict water-only zone. Beth just listened quietly, looking super bummed, and started to walk out all slumped over. That's when it hit Tara that she was being a total Karen and was like, hey, my bad for being so extra and screaming at you. Beth turned back, looking mega confused. Tara kept going, explaining she shouldn't have popped off like that, especially since Beth was her personal maid and was literally just, doing her job. Beth was like, oh, it's all good, you don't have to apologize, but conveniently left out the part where she wasn't actually her personal maid. Tara just froze, totally lost. Then Beth laid it all out, explaining that since she was in a coma for so long, they pretty much decided she didn't need a dedicated maid. So now she just pitches in sometimes because the Countess told her to. Tara's thinking out loud like, well, you're in here constantly, so I guess I just read the room wrong. And Beth hits back with, well, I'm in here a lot because you scream for me a lot, which left Tara completely shook since she had in fact just screamed her name. Beth gave her some serious side-eye, probably wondering if her little tantrum was over. As Beth turned to bounce again, Tara just blurted out, hey, would you like actually be my personal maid for real? Beth got all flustered and spun around saying, my services are yours to command, it's not like I have a choice. But Tara was like, whoa, hold up, I'm not about to make you do something you're not into. The maid started blushing hard. For real, she'd never had a choice about anything in her entire life. Tara immediately started digging through her closet for a shawl saying, look, it's easy. You're either in or you're out. Beth's face got even redder. She gulped and then said she would totally love to. Then she just booked it, yelling that the shawl was missing a button, so she'd taken it to be fixed and was gonna go grab it right now. Sir. Tara just sighed. Later, she's in this meeting with a bunch of other bougie people, and this one lady, Victoria Elias, a countess from the Elias fam and mom to Jason, and Chloe is like, so what do you want from me? The whole room went dead quiet. Tara's brain was screaming, wrong time. This is the worst time to air out the family's dirty laundry. Not with all these randoms eavesdropping. Then the countess gets to her feet and goes, what on earth were you thinking just barging in here and making demands like that? Tara was completely blindsided and started stammering out an apology. But the countess was on a roll saying, there's no way Tara actually thinks her time is more important than hers. And then she straight up called her a peasant just to try and put her in her place. Then another lady stands up nervously grabbing her dress. This one was a redhead too, just like Tara. She's shaking and staring at the floor, apologizing like her life depends on it, saying her daughter just woke up and is still like figuring out the house rules. This was Isabel Lee's 36 years old, pretty much the only person on Tara's side, and Count Lloyd's third wife. She tried to pull Tara out of there, telling her to catch up with her later. Tara was biting her lip, absolutely seething. Tara was thinking, okay, the Countess has always been a total witch to me, but this is next level. Looked like she just had to take the L on this one. She did a little bow and apologized, saying she'd hit her up for a real meeting next time. As she and her mom were leaving, Victoria kept running her mouth about them, saying they had zero class. Tara's mom started trembling with rage, still gripping her daughter's arm. Tara whispered, she's playing with fire, she has way more to lose if she keeps this going. But seeing her mom like that was it, the last straw. She spun back around. So we're back with the Countess, and Tara just starts flexing on them like, Jason and Chloe have 4 maids each, Arya's got 3, and Logan has 2. The Countess literally freezes mid-sip, looking totally lost, like, what is this chick even talking about? Tara keeps going, and me, I've got a big fat 0. The Countess, completely clueless and getting salty AF, just slams her teacup down and basically loses it on her. Then some other noble in the room just has to jump into the drama and asks Tara, 0 what, sweetie? And she's just like, personal maids, duh. The whole room just gasps. For real, how does a girl from the freaking 5th biggest house in the entire empire not even have a single maid? It's giving broke. The whole situation was just so not the vibe. The Countess, totally embarrassed, is like, I have no idea what you're talking about. But Tara sees her face turning beet red and knows she's totally got her cornered. So Tara totally uses this, basically putting her on blast in front of everyone. She's like, oh, I get it, you probably had no clue. You were probably super busy with that whole farming products drama, right? And you were totally gonna assign someone to me, I bet. Victoria latches onto this lie so fast, she's like, yes, that's exactly it, I've just been insanely busy and drowning in like a mountain of overdue paperwork, I just couldn't get to the small stuff. Tara just keeps piling it on. Yeah, the Countess was super swamped firing all the useless maids and hiring new ones, and she only came here because she had her eye on a specific maid she wanted. The Countess is like, exactly, and says she already told the housekeeper to pick one out for her, but the housekeeper was totally dragging her feet. So long story short, Tara gets Beth as her personal maid. Boom. Later when they're leaving, Isabel asks her daughter, "Okay, spill the tea. How'd you know Lady Victoria was doing shady stuff with the farm supplies?" Tara just shrugs. "I just asked the advisor where the tea came from. It's not exactly a state secret, especially for anyone with Elias blood, you know." And her mom is just shook. Like she realizes her daughter literally 5D chessed that whole conversation. Then Tara switches gears, asking if she's also thinking about getting into the wine business. She's remembering some gossip she picked up. She was listening in and heard the ban on Sorbonne wine is about to be lifted, and the price is gonna skyrocket, maybe even like 20 times your investment. Her mom gets that total thinking face emoji look. She puts her hand on her chin all thoughtful-like. She goes, "Yeah, all the noble ladies are hyping it up, so I'll probably jump in on it too." Tara just crosses her arms, totally not feeling that idea. She's like, "I get that the ladies can invest in whatever, but they're missing the bigger picture. They should just chill for a sec before making any moves." Her mom gives her this super proud look. She's realizing that even though Tara's changed a ton, she's still her girl. Then she hits her with the classic mom line, "You grew up so fast," and Tara gets all awkward and cringed out. She just laughs it off like, "Yeah, I definitely grew up maybe a little too much," and then adds, "Just hit me up before you invest in anything, Kay?" Then she just makes a run for a carriage. Her mom's like, "What's the big rush?" Tara just flashes a grin and says she's off to persuade someone about something, being super mysterious about it. Isabel is left totally in the dark, just watching her daughter dip out like that. So now we're in the city and Bernard's like, "All right, where are we even headed?" Tara just points at some building way in the distance, and Bernard's jaw just hits the floor. He's like, "Are you out of your freaking mind?" She just deadpans, completely sane, but thanks for your concern. After they walk for a bit, Bernard starts complaining. He starts going on about how lame it is that real knights are out there being heroes, and he's stuck on glorified babysitting duty. He's like, maybe I should just rage quit and go try out for the Palace Gate Guard Squad. The pay is trash, but at least it's got more clout. Tara cuts him off. "How much longer till we're there?" He says, like 20 minutes, and then goes right back to daydreaming about that gatekeeper tryout, which is only in like 3 months. As he's having this whole quarter-life crisis, Tara just stops cold, looking super annoyed, and is like, "What are you even going on about?" He's confused about why she stopped. Tara just claps back, saying he might have the muscle to bench press a whole cow, but he's got less brains than half of one. He gets visibly ticked off like, "I was just answering your question. Besides, we agreed I'd train you, not be your personal Uber everywhere you go." Tara's like, "Fair enough. I just asked you to train me not to pledge your undying loyalty or something. But I kind of figured you could be my bodyguard on the side." Bernard just scoffs at her. He's like, "Pledging loyalty is a once-in-a-lifetime deal for a knight, and I'm not about to waste it on you." She's low-key annoyed by that. She's like, "It doesn't have to be a whole ceremony, dude." Then she gets serious and says, "You have until next month to decide if you're going to be my knight for real or not. And if you decide to bounce, I'll send you a massive supply of that medicine as a parting gift." He gets this huge grin on his face and is like, "No take-backsies on that. Totally sealing the deal." So Bernard's all like, "All right, let's roll. For this mission, you've got the best guard in the game." A little later, they're at the door and he's like, Isn't this place a little sketchy?" Seriously doubting any noble girl would ever set foot in a shady place like this. Tara, annoyed, is like, "Even if it's temporary, you're my knight right now, so act like it." He just starts casually cleaning his ear. Bernard asks, "Do you even know why everyone's terrified of Lacton's Road?" He adds sarcastically, "It's because the entire Imperial Guard is totally useless at stopping all the fun activities that happen here, like people getting snatched and, permanently deleted." So Tara's all like, "Duh, Captain Obvious," which just made Bernard even more heated. He starts totally spazzing on her like, "Bro, we're walking into a place where people are straight up feral. And you're acting like it's a trip to the mall." She plugs her ears like, "OMG, stop screaming," and tries to bounce, but her knight just snatches her back by the hoodie. He's like, "What is actually going on in that brain of yours, Tara? You're not even a little freaked about what's about to happen?" She gets this little smirk and is like, "Avi, I'm scared, but I've got you my knight in shining armor." Bernard Smith. Tara keeps pushing, saying this is legit life or death, and they gotta dip like right now. Bernard kind of freezes for a sec, but then he just gives in and tells her to zip it and stay right on his 6. So she hops behind him to go all stealth mode. But the literal second they're supposed to move, Tara plows right into his back because he's a total statue. She gets all huffy like, "Dude, what's the holdup? We got a problem." Bernard tells her to hide behind a rock and not even breathe, saying he, forgot to take his medicine a few hours ago. He just zips off to the side, leaving Tara completely baffled. Wondering if nature was calling, she just flops down on the ground next to Bernard's giant axe. A second later, she hears some serious action popping off behind the wall. Sounds like a full-on beatdown. Her nosy self can't resist, so she peeks over to scope it out. She sees 3 goons just stomping some dude on the ground. Tara's thinking the guy is pretty jacked and is like, why isn't he fighting back? Maybe he's all show and no go. Just then the wall she's leaning on starts to crumble. Guess that New Year's diet plan is still loading. The whole thing gives out and Tara faceplants right in front of the 3 thugs. She lets out a quiet crap, trying to scramble up, but when she looks up, she sees every single eye is locked on her. Tara's heart basically jumps into her throat. She's totally bugging out and just freezes solid. One of the goons starts running his mouth asking what a wild pig is doing here, totally dissing her weight. The other two dudes jump right on the bandwagon. One's cackling about how she busted the wall, and the other one yells that the pig is trying to escape as she turns to leave. Limping away, she mutters, "I'm not a pig. The wall was just made of straight-up garbage." The guys yell for her to get back here, because whether she's a girl or a pig, she ain't just walking away. Tara freezes, whispering to herself that it's been like 10 whole minutes since Bernard pieced out. She turns back to the thugs pulling her hood down low. Tara's like, "My bad, didn't mean to crash your party," and says they can get back to it and she'll just, leave. The goons get super offended, like she's trying to tell them what to do, and demand she pay up for wasting their precious time. She turns her head, pinches her nose like they stink, and holds out a single gold coin. The brown-haired dude's eyes light up, saying the little pig is loaded, but he's not about to settle for just one coin. He wants the entire pouch on her hip, which has way more than double that. Tara tells him she's only paying for the time she wasted, and that one measly coin is exactly what their time is worth, not a cent more. Yeah, the thieves were not about that life. So they're like, "You really think you can take us? Just hand over everything you got." She gulps and goes, "Actually, I do have a secret weapon." They just laugh in her face like, "Oh yeah, what?" She ducks down real quick and says like this, and then just screams, "Bernard!" at the top of her lungs. In the distance, Bernard, looking absolutely murderous, comes charging in like a freaking runaway bull. He snatches his axe from the wall and just plows right into them. Tara turns her back on the chaos, hearing a bunch of sickening thuds and smacks. She's just thinking, yep, Bernard is an absolute unit. Total savage. 5 minutes later, it's dead silent. Tara's clapping and cheering, gassing him up like, "That's my knight, so strong." But Bernard, still totally livid, just starts laying into her. He's yelling that he was crystal clear when he said to stay put, and that things would have gotten mega ugly if he was 1 second later. Tara, looking super sheepish, does that little shy finger-poking thing. She argues back that she was just taking a little peek, like how was she supposed to know the wall was a total piece of junk? She does the whole calm-down hand gesture and says since he got there in the nick of time, it's all good now. They just need to get a move on. Bernard, looking like he's about to have a stroke, covers his face and mutters he can't tell if she's brave or just has an empty head, because if she got grabbed, the worst-case scenario would have played out. She tries to explain that she knew his nature break usually takes about 15 minutes, so she was just stalling for time. Bernard just lets out a massive sigh, realizing it's useless to argue with her logic. He turns to leave, and that's when she notices they completely forgot about the guy on the ground, the one who was getting pummeled earlier. Tara kneels down and is like, "Hey, sorry for almost dipping on you," explaining she couldn't do much on her own, and then gives this super cringy laugh. The dude just lies there, not moving, not making a sound. She keeps rambling, saying if he needs some coin for a doctor or something, she can totally spot him. When he's still a total log, she shoots Bernard a worried look, gets up and brushes the dirt off her pants. Tara walks over to Bernard and tells him to give the guy this, dropping a gold coin into his palm. Suddenly, the dude on the ground starts laughing, making both of them snap their heads around. He just pops right up like nothing happened, leaving Tara completely shooketh. Turns out my guy was totally faking. The face under the hood is finally revealed. It's a smiling dude with brown hair. Still grinning, he asks her what she'd do if even 100 gold pieces wasn't enough to cover the bill. So Tara was just like totally frozen while Bernard was completely losing his mind, screaming at the dude, calling him a total dirtbag and yelling about how they literally just saved his life and didn't even get a thanks. Tara was just like, "Bernard, chill out. Let's just dip." Bernard was still ready to throw hands, but Tara yanked his arm and started dragging him away. At first he was like, "What the heck, dude?" But then he peeped the look on Tara's face and she looked seriously spooked. She told him again like, "We gotta bounce now." So even though he was super ticked off, he was like, "Ugh, fine," and they bailed on the hooded dude. The guy just watched them leave and started dying laughing like it was the funniest thing ever that she'd offered him a gold coin. A little later while they were walking, Bernard was like, "Yo, what was up with that back there? That's so not your vibe, and you looked way more freaked out than I've ever seen you." Brushing off her cloak, Tara was like, "It was more of a bad vibe than me actually being scared." She pointed out that the dude had like 0 scent, which is super sus for a guy in busted clothes who looks like he's living on the street. So his whole story was kinda sketchy. Bernard completely glossed over that and was like, "Hold up, did you actually sniff him?" She clapped back. "Dude, that is so not the point. Besides, he didn't even sound like some random broke dude. Especially his voice. He sounded like a total rich kid." Bernard still wasn't buying it, arguing. But he looked like a total scrub getting his butt kicked by dudes half his size. If he was that loaded, he could have just paid him off. Tara just tisked like, "It wasn't about the money, Bernard." The guy had this major don't mess with me energy, so the smart play was to just bounce. She also said she wasn't trying to get into any extra drama, so it was better to just drop it and stay on mission. Bernard clammed up and just started cleaning his ear, lol. They walked into this pub-looking place and found a table. Tara was totally zoning out trying to figure out who that dude was. She flashed back to her old life when she worked for a TV show. Back then, her whole job was tracking down a bunch of different brainiacs every week to guest star on the program. Most of them were like total big shots in their fields. They all had this crazy intense energy, and it made her feel like they were playing a totally different game. She got that exact same vibe from the guy they just saved. Except his was like a million times stronger. She was racking her brain like, who is this guy? Wondering if this whole mess was even in the original script. Then it hit her, he was a total wild card, a complete unknown. So yeah, way better to just avoid him and not accidentally tank the whole mission. Meanwhile, Bernard was getting all antsy, so she asked him what was up. Then out of nowhere, a voice called out to her, going on about how cute and adorable she was, and asking what she wanted. Tara got kinda pissed, thinking someone was clowning on her. She looked up and saw this woman at the counter talking to them. The lady said, "You two are a unique pair," and then asked Bernard what he wanted to drink, calling him her strong knight. Tara was shook when she realized that far from making fun of her, the woman was, well, let's just say she was seriously packing in the chest department way more than Tara. Bernard did this little cough trying to play off how flustered he was. He was blushing like crazy and mumbled that he just wanted a beer, which Tara totally clocked. She cleared her throat and ordered some fancy-sounding hot liquor. The bartender was like, "You sure you want that, sweetie?" Tara was like, 100%. How long's the wait? The woman looked intrigued and said it'd be about 30 minutes because they were almost out. In the meantime, she'd get Bernard his beer. As she headed to the back, she called out that her knight would have to wait a couple of minutes for her to return, since she had to whip up the young lady's special order. As Bernard took a sip, Tara smirked and was like, "So I've officially figured out your type." She leaned in close and asked, "You've always been into busty women, haven't you?" Bernard was so shocked he did a literal spit take with his beer. Shaking and beet red, he stuttered, "A lady of your status shouldn't say stuff like that." She just laughed like, "Oh, come on, you know I'm not one of those stuck-up nobles." He cleared his throat trying to get his act together, and then Bernard asked why she ordered such a strong-ass drink. Tara just shrugged. "Oh, I've never actually had it before." Then she dropped the bombshell. "Because legit the drink I ordered doesn't even exist," leaving him totally baffled. In a spot nearby, that same hooded dude was talking with some other guys. One of them said, "Seriously, sir, there was no reason for you to get involved personally in a mess like that. It would have been way safer to just let us handle it." The guy continued calling him Your Majesty. The young man cut him off cold, saying his full name, Nick Brightite. And get this, Nick was actually one of the thugs who jumped him, meaning the whole thing was staged. Repeating the title he'd just used, Nick started freaking out, realizing he'd screwed up big time. He immediately dropped to his knees, basically begging for his life. The young man just said, "I never do anything without a reason, and that using my title in public is going to cost you 500 punishment laps around the palace courtyard." Nick got the hint and used some nearby crates to peace out real quick. Meanwhile, the young man turned to the others and said, "When the merchant ships dock tonight, we're going in. After we help them unload the wine, we'll know its final destination." He put a hand on his chin, thinking, and added, "The Lacton gang will probably lay low for a bit after tonight's little performance. And if it wasn't for that girl with the gold coin, we could have gotten more info. What's the intel on that tavern she ducked into?" The other guy answered, "She has zero connection to the gang we're investigating. But the weird part is the gang has never messed with a single regular from that tavern, which is super suspicious." The young man pointed out, "The mastermind behind this is a slippery one. They already know I'm here, but they still haven't made a move. I wonder if they're trying to prove he's like neutral." So the guy's like, "Yo, should I go scope out those two party crashers, Tara and Bernard?" Then boom, flashback to that whole mess. The young dude asks his homie Walter what his game plan would be. Walter's completely clueless, like, say what now?" So he breaks it down for him. "Dude, what's the play? If you weren't some sword god and got jumped in a fight, you were totally gonna lose." And Walter's just like, "Simple, I'd bounce." The convo continues, and even when he's asked about having backup, Walter's answer is still, "Nah, I'm dipping." Like for real, who knows how long it'd take for the cavalry to roll up, and it's not worth getting clapped for. The young guy just dies laughing like, "You are 100% correct." But then, a little bit of coin was all it took to change the whole vibe earlier when that girl needed to buy some time. He finally tells Walter to go hunt down that investor list, now that they've got a better read on this sus wine business. Walter's like, "Say less," and pieces out, vaulting over the crates just like Nick. The young dude pulls his hood down finally, thinking he can handle the mega cringe of playing beggar if it means saving the day. He's low-key grateful for being ignored. Till now, thinking the more he looks like a total scrub, the easier it'll be to slip past security. 5 minutes after that whole fiasco, back at the bar, the bartender shouts that the girl's drink is ready, but adds that her knight in shining armor has to tag along, which makes Bernard turn beet red. He shoots up totally flustered and smacks the table, yelling that this ain't the time for games, and that he's going with her as her bodyguard. Tara tells him to take a chill pill, saying this is crazy important, and he needs to trust her. Bernard's like, he's not budging, saying she's not some fancy noble who can just name-drop her way out of trouble. Tara's like, I get it, and swears she'll scream bloody murder if things get sketchy, but this is a massive deal with her whole future riding on it. He finally gives in, but with one catch. Bernard whispers something to her and then lets her go. In the back room, a blonde woman was already waiting for Tara, just vibing and sipping on some tea. She gives her a little nod, asking what a girl from the prestigious house Elias could possibly want at her joint. Tara's just like, please, you already know why I'm here. The woman's like, you should know I don't just take on any rando as my apprentice. This lady's name was Andre Pitt, and she was the big boss of the Black Society, the most notorious spy ring in all of Okarion. Turns out that drink Tara ordered was the secret code to get an audience with the queen herself. Strolling up to the table, Tara's like, I'm not just some rando. But before they really get down to business, she asks if Andre's gonna flip the hourglass on the table. Andre does it all dramatic and slow and says that everyone who tracks her down is after something huge, and asks what the heir of House Elias could possibly want so badly that she'd want to be her student. Tara takes a deep breath and says Andre is the only person who can make her dream happen. Andre taps the hourglass, smirking. And she's like, all right, talk like that and you've got my full attention? She asks what this epic dream is. Tara says it's to save her family from being completely erased. Andre's hooked. I mean, House Elias was the 5th most powerful family in the whole empire. How could they possibly be in trouble? She asks if Tara wants her help to rocket her house to the #1 spot. Tara shoots that idea down flat, saying she's not trying to make it the goat house. She's just trying to keep it from totally imploding. The sand in the hourglass runs out and Tara stands up, which leaves Andre completely baffled. Opening the door, Tara sees the bartender wrestling with Bernard, who's practically vibrating trying to break the door down. Tara's like, whoa, chill, I'm perfectly fine, and tells him to give her just 10 more minutes. She slams the door shut. Bernard yells that he'll wait 10 minutes, but not 1 second longer. Tara lets out a sigh of relief, and the woman laughing finally understands the point of the hourglass. Tara takes a seat again. Andre's like, okay, let's get down to brass tacks. Why do you think House Elias is doomed? Tara explains that only one of the 3 princes is going to take the throne, and as soon as the coronation is over, all the families that backed the losing team are going to be lucky if they don't get completely cancelled. Andre thinks the whole story is insane, but she's still not connecting the dots on why that means becoming her apprentice. Tara's like, that's where the Black Society enters the chat. She slaps a blank check on the table and says she needs a mentor who knows the empire on a whole other level, like knows all the dirty secrets, and only Andre can do that for her. Andre just scoffs, saying that even though Tara had the nerve to show up with a blank check, she highly doubts Tara could afford her no matter what she scribbled on it. With a dead serious face, Tara explains that maybe she can't right now, but she can 100% pay in 3 years. Standing up, Andre says that's a big if, and she's leaning towards a hard pass. So Tara claps back with, what, you don't think you're good enough to mentor me? Andre is shook that she'd actually pull the pride card. Tara presses on, explaining that with Andre as her guide, she could become an official exec in 3 years, then move up to consul and finally become the head of House Elias. She admits that leading a house destined to crash and burn isn't exactly a flex, but she's the only one who sees it coming. She finds it kinda ironic that the closer she gets to total disaster, the closer she gets to the top job. Andre puts a hand on her chin, mulling it over, and then a smile spreads across her face. Tapping the table, she says the palace exams are in 1 month, and that basically it's all about whether Tara passes the vibe check. Her skills better pop off. Tara's just posted up watching Andre. Meanwhile, back at the castle, Bernard's all like, so how'd that whole do or die test go? Tara's like, I think I kinda ate that TBH. Then she's like, nah, wait, I totally crushed it. But she thinks it's low-key sus that Andre promised to pop in every night starting next week. Even though it's just a maybe promise, she feels like she's walking on eggshells that are getting extra crispy. Cut to the tavern where Andre is literally cackling over some papers on her table. She's like, looks like I bagged a real heavy hitter for an apprentice this time. And then adds, this one's actually got some brain cells too. She wanders over to a rope, muttering, all right, how do I speedrun this kid's glow up? She pulls the rope, still thinking out loud, totally vibing with the Aaliyah house crashing and burning while the new girl takes the throne. That bartender from earlier pops up like, you rang boss. Andre's like, hit the basement and find every single skeleton in the Aaliyah family's closet, and get someone to shadow my new apprentice. She snatches the check Tara gave her, shoves it at the bartender and goes, and have your guy make sure this thing's for real. The bartender just nods and is like, bet. Meanwhile, Andre's thinking, oh, I can't wait to see the drama Tara's about to stir up. Back at the Elias crib, Count Lloyd is totally grilling his butler. He's freaking out that Tara went to that asterisk tavern like, what was she even doing there? The butler's just like, sir, we got an anonymous tip in the mail. He keeps going. It also spilled the tea on who Tara chose as her tutor. Lloyd's like, you think the Black Society is involved in this mess? The butler's like, it's possible. He explains, that crew has like 2 main squads, one for intel and one for enforcement, but that's basically all I've got. Then he drops the name of Tara's new mentor, Andre Pitt. The Count is stroking his chin, totally lost in thought, wondering how in the world she linked up with Andre. He glances out the window, sees Tara jogging with a squad of soldiers, and thinks, all of Pitt's apprentices have been absolute legends. So picking Tara is like a super random choice. Right on cue, she totally wipes out while running in the courtyard, which just makes her dad even more shook. The math ain't mathin'. Tara's crying that she literally can't even, and some soldier claps back, bro, it's been like 30 minutes. The Count's just like, well, she must have gotten insanely lucky. I guess we'll just have to wait and see. The butler chimes in. Sir, an urgent message just came in from the office. The Count sits down all. Yeah, I've got a feeling I know what this is about. The butler hands him the letter and says, it's about Tara. He rips it open and starts reading. Lloyd is completely floored, like, what am I even reading right now? He screams for his butler, Dylan, and tells him to get his lawyer on the line like ASAP. In her room, Tara's like, ugh, Beth is taking forever. Then she hears frantic footsteps, and Beth bursts in completely out of breath. She gasps, you were totally right. Some consultant guy was here this morning. She tells her, the maid said he was in there talking with the count for like forever. Tara's just like, my mentor is so slick, I swear. And then asks, so did my dad send for me? Beth is shook like, how did you know Mr. Dillon just sent me to come get you for the lower hall? Tara's like, girl, you took long enough. I put 2 and 2 together. Beth says, well, they're already waiting for you down there. Tara thinks, awesome time to face another firing squad of nobles. So fun. Down in the main hall, Jason is pitching his brilliant idea to get the beverage business poppin' again and get on good terms with the neighbors. Some guy immediately shoots him down like, bro, the drink ban was to stop blowing the Empire's money and to get everyone to chill after years of like famine war and a massive drought. He's basically saying good luck getting the crown to budge on that. Jason looks totally cringe. Meanwhile, Tara's brain is just buffering on the whole import ban thing. Chloe leans in and is like, so I got some tea, some really expensive juicy gossip. I heard a certain royal got sent on a top secret mission. She adds, we should totally turn our cargo ships into floating booze cruises for the next trip out. Some guy with long hair is like, is that for real though? Cause if that's cap, we're gonna take a massive L? Tara just nods, but on the inside, she's completely frozen, realizing this is not how the plot is supposed to go. In the book, the ban was only lifted after a whole war, but that war hasn't even started yet. The Count asks Chloe, so where'd you pick up this little rumor, the finance guys or the military brass? She's like, actually, my mom's been getting chummy with the Anton house. You know, the one with a duke in the Department of Justice? The Count asks if her mom's family, the Fipe house, helped grease the wheels on that arrangement. Chloe's like, yep, Grandpa totally pulled some strings. Jason jumps up asking his dad to let him spearhead the whole wine thing, arguing that he's like the perfect man for the job. He insists he's totally ready to get this show on the road and asks for a chance. The Count is just sitting there thinking it over. Meanwhile, Tara's still frozen, digging through her memories, trying to figure out where she's heard Anton house before. Then it clicks, she totally heard it when she was snooping on some conversation. She starts panicking about what'll happen if this intel from the ministry turns out to be total fake news. Was like, okay, let Jason do his thing. But another part of me was screaming, but what if this is all fake and our entire house gets wrecked? Tara was so relieved, realizing her dad was on the exact same page. But then she was like, hold on, this isn't some game. Everything was happening way too fast, like the book was on hyperspeed. And if it kept this pace, their whole house was going to be toast way before the deadline, before she could even make a move. She was literally breaking a sweat. The Count stood up explaining they'd need to build some shady off-the-grid distillery, secure deals with importers, and map out a totally safe way to move the product. He was basically like, listen, all of this requires a ton of time, a mountain of cash, and a bulletproof plan. He stared daggers at everyone and said, are we really about to risk everything based on some rando's word? Jason was fumbling his words, trying to tell his dad the intel was probably solid. Lloyd totally slammed his fist on the table. The Count went into full-on business dad mode, saying that in a formal meeting it's Your Excellency, not Dad. Jason was so stunned, he just nodded, completely owned. The Count broke it down. Getting into the liquor business wasn't the biggest hurdle. The real problem was that if the intel was bogus, House Elias would be branded as traitors. Like officially enemies of the king. He was like, who's gonna team up with a family with that kind of rep? He snapped his fingers and was like, all right, go dig up every piece of dirt on the Anton and Philip families. And when we have all the evidence, we'll pick this back up. Everyone was just like, got it. As they were heading out, the Count's other kids were throwing major side-eye at Tara, whispering about why she was even there, since she was basically a background character who said 0 things during the whole meeting. Chloe walks right up to her and is like, have you just been pretending to be clueless this whole time? Spill it, what's your real motive? Tara's completely blindsided and is like, whoa, not a chance, and says she's just been chilling in her room literally doing nothing. Chloe's like, I could not care less what you do. But you better not dare to ruin our family's reputation. Tara's just like, okay, I'll be careful, Chloe. Chloe gets super annoyed asking why she didn't use her formal title. Tara's like, well, we're sisters, so I just figured Chloe was chill. Chloe just huffs a whatever, but says she'll be watching her. Then Chloe just storms off. The butler then tells Tara her dad needs to see her. She walks out staring at the floor, totally spiraling and thinking he's gonna call her out for the whole Andre Pitt mess and for being at that tavern. She's clutching her dress like it's a lifeline. She's thinking she really, really needs her dad to have her back. Sitting in the room, her anxiety was through the roof. It was the first time in her life she'd had a one-on-one meeting with her dad. The Count's like, I have 3 questions for you. She nervously agrees, thinking, 3, that seems like a lot. Then her dad drops the bombshell they received a letter from Andre asking how she managed to talk him into being her tutor. Tara gulps, thinking, oh, I'm so dead. She's thinking, all right, I have like 2 ways I can spin this. She starts by telling a story about this little 8-year-old boy named Peter, who began watching her train with Bernard holding a little wooden sword. The butler and her dad just give her this completely blank stare, trying to figure out what this has to do with anything. She's like, hello, are you guys with me? Can I finish? The Count's like, yeah, keep going. So she explains how the kid would show up all bruised and would try to copy her training routine from a distance. At first, she just brushed him off as some scrawny little kid. But then she learned he was getting bullied by the other kids. She honestly figured he'd just give up after a few days, not taking him seriously at all. But then, like 2 days later, she sees Bernard personally training him. The Count asks why. She remembers asking Bernard why he was teaching the kid for free when she basically had to beg him and pay a fee. Bernard told her the kid swore he'd become the best swordsman in the entire empire and that he had no one else, so he begged Bernard to be his master. He was like, the odds of his dream actually coming true are basically 0. But honestly, it's way more fun teaching him than you. And if the kid actually showed some real talent, Bernard would keep training him, otherwise he'd get the boot. The Count just starts cracking up, slapping his knee like, that's hilarious. Andre's doing the exact same thing to Tara. You know he's testing her to see if she's the real deal. He's laughing, saying the whole thing is insane, and that it just answered like 2 of his biggest questions. But right as he was about to ask his last question, he's totally interrupted by Dylan. The butler's all flustered like, sir, we still haven't gotten a reply from the legal consultant. The Count just says, nah, don't worry about it. I've already got the answer I need, while taking a calm sip of his tea. The butler gives Tara a super worried look, but she's like, I've got this, and says she had a huge hunch Andre wanted the blank check to be reviewed by a legal professional. The butler confirms that's literally the exact request she had made. Tara explains that's why Pitt took her on as a student, kind of like how Bernard is training that boy, and that getting the check verified was just one of his little pop quizzes, since Pitt didn't really think Tara had what it took to be a palace scribe. Anyway, the butler is totally stunned, realizing Andre just wanted to see what their strategy would be if the check was rejected. The Count just nods and says, you hit the nail on the head, adding that this is a test for both Tara and the entire House of Elias. He slides open a desk drawer and Tara's just like, so did you approve the check or not? So the Count just lays it on her like, seriously? You just strolled into some super sketchy place without even knowing if the whole thing was legit. And she's just like, nuh-uh. She's all had no clue if I'd leveled up my trust stats with you yet. The Count actually cracks up, saying he's feeling her vibe. He snaps his fingers and is like, aight, what's the move, macarons or cookies? Tara, who's trying to stick to her diet, goes for both Obvi, and the butler is just standing there completely shook, cause he's literally never seen the Count laugh that hard. She's so hyped, thinking, yes, I'm finally in the inner circle. Then like 5 minutes later, the buyer's remorse hits hard when she sees both desserts on the table. While she's chowing down, she's like, okay, what's the deal? Why is he being so chill all of a sudden? I mean, the dude can be super icy sometimes, but he's still her dad, you know? So she just keeps nomming, trying to play it cool, cause she knows this is just the tutorial level. Then the Count's like, so I'm kinda curious. What made you even want to take the palace exams? And she's thinking, oh, I've had that answer locked and loaded since day 1. But she knows she's got to frame this perfectly. She puts her hand on her chest and like gulps. Tara knows this is some serious tea, and his reaction could totally kill this rare family moment they're having. She takes a sip of milk, trying to get her game face on. Tapping the glass on the table, she just rips the Band-Aid off. The only thing that got me through the last 7 years was Brandon. Bro, you could hear a pin drop. The Count's face goes blank, like his brain just started lagging. He shoots up totally livid, like, who the hell do you think you are saying Brandon's name to me? The butler tries to step in like, sir, maybe take a beat. But nah, it's too late. Tara knows this is gonna be rough, but she's gotta go there. She has to talk about what went down 7 years ago and basically poke the bear. Flashback to 7 years ago, there's this little kid in a coffin covered in flowers. Someone's like, why him? Why did this have to be his story? Then some other dude comes over, hands all shaky, and says the boy left something for the little girl. He opens this box, and inside is a scroll. A voice is like, who's that for? And the guy says, it's for Lady Tara, pointing to this little girl just bawling her eyes out in the corner. Back to now, Tara's thinking the only way out is to go straight through it. You gotta face your drama head on. The Count slams the table, screaming, you think just because I gave you one stupid cookie you get to say his name to my face? She's grabbing her dress, totally terrified, but she forces herself to keep going. Not one single day goes by that I don't regret it. I can't stop replaying why I went for that dumb treasure chest. She wishes it never ever happened. Lloyd just snaps back, a little late for apologies now. She's begging him to just listen to her. He just stands there, giving her the death stare. The butler chimes in. Sir, you can't stay stuck in your grief forever. He just collapses into his chair, covering his face. Tara then asks, What if I finish what my brother started? What if I live his dream for him? The Count slowly lowers his hand, like, what are you even saying? She has a flashback to Brandon's dream. How he wanted to be a scribe, or even like the consul for the whole empire. She says she heard him talking about it constantly when they were little, and tells him that's all she's wanted ever since to carry on his legacy. And that's when it clicks for the Count. She's exactly like him. He sees the same fire in her eyes that Brandon had. Right then, there's a knock on the door. A maid comes in with more food. The Count's like, you're probably starving. Eat, we can talk later. She thanks him, all formal and proper. But then he tells Tara to just call him father. She gets this tiny smile thinking, oh my god, it's actually working. Then the Count asks her what she thought about the meeting from earlier. She puts the cookie down and gets her serious thinking face on. The butler's like, whoa, sir, that's kind of a heavy question for her. But she just goes, even if Duke Anton has a point, it's way too early to make a play. If you want my 2 cents. The Count just says, I'm listening. So Tara breaks it down. The Emperor seems like personally invested in this whole prohibition deal, so even if it gets axed, we still won't know where his head's really at, so we have to play it crazy safe. Her dad asks her to break it down for him. She's like, we should hold off. Until the ban is officially gone and asterisk, then asterisk, we apply for a license to brew some kind of exclusive wine just for the palace. Cut to a room where she's moaning that she needs some Tums from Doctor. Oliver fanning herself like she's about to faint. Beth is like, we literally have a bunch of herbs for that growing right here in the room. You can just pick some anytime. Tara feels like a total idiot for not knowing that. Then the maid gets all nosy like, so for real, is the prohibition actually getting canned? Someone said they heard it in the meeting? Tara asks, who'd you hear that from? Thinking it's kind of random for a maid to be so into politics. When she realizes it might be legit, Beth starts freaking out. Tara starts laughing. Okay, what's got you so hyped? Spill the tea. Meanwhile, Beth is literally bouncing off the walls. The maid is like, okay, so this is super top secret. I just kind of overheard it by accident. Now Tara's totally invested. Beth leans in and whispers, you got any money saved up? Then she does the whole shh thing with her finger to her lips. Beth keeps going, saying she dropped 3 whole months of her salary on it, which Tara calculates is like 6 gold coins. Beth is all starry-eyed like, yep. She says they told her it was an investment that would pay out 20 times what she put in. Tara was just watching this whole mess unfold, totally clueless, until the light bulb finally went off. She whipped around like, hold up, you didn't actually invest in that whole Sorbanian wine thing, did you? And Beth was like, yeah, I knew you'd put 2 and 2 together. So Tara's like, how'd you even get wind of this? Beth spills that her friend Cindy, one of the butlers, said her older brother heard it from some noble. So basically a total game of medieval telephone. Tara literally leapt out of her chair all like, when did you give them the money? Beth kinda mumbled, like 2 days ago. Tara grabbed her shoulders. You need to bolt and get your 3 months of payback like right now. She kept rambling mostly to herself. Okay, first things first, we gotta find Cindy. I'm also betting the account they used for the transfer is completely bogus. Beth, looking totally freaked out, was like, dude, what is going on? Tara broke it down for her. They're just buttering people up for their cash and then they're gonna bounce. It's a huge scam. Go find Cindy, like right now. Beth shot out of the room and Tara just collapsed into the chair. Then it dawned on her, her mom probably fell for the exact same hustle. Now they're both power walking down the hall, the maid looking super bummed while Tara's just thinking about how she definitely stress ate and gained like a few pounds last night. Tara was just picturing her super sweet and naive mom probably investing just because she had serious FOMO. She was thinking, ugh, why did my mom have to get caught up in all this drama? They walked into this hall that was totally packed with a bunch of bougie nobles. Tara asked, is there some big event happening today or what? And Beth was like, IDK, but there are a ton of big shot lords and ladies here. Tara thought to herself that there was nothing she could do. She stopped dead in her tracks, realizing she might be forgetting something, and then literally slapped herself across the face. Beth, totally shocked, was like, whoa, what just happened? Tara whipped around and asked, yo, you got a copy of today's paper? Beth was like, nah, I left it in my room. Tara groaned, I totally spaced and didn't even read it, admitting she'd bounced without even glancing at the news. Arriving back in the room, she spots the news. And yep, the rumor that the beverage ban was getting lifted was completely fake. Turns out Duke Anton was behind most of the lies, dragging a ton of other nobles down with him. The news was also spilling all the tea on crimes connected to the Lacton gang and how this whole scandal could totally tank the palace exam happening in 3 weeks. Tara just looked at it and said, this is absolute chaos. Heading back down the stairs to the hall, Tara practically ran into a huge official-looking squad of knights doing some investigation for the palace. Right in the middle of them was a super well-dressed young guy. He had brown hair and, not gonna lie, was pretty cute and looked weirdly familiar. He gave her this serious side-eye. She slapped a hand over her mouth to keep from screaming when she realized that the young man was the homeless dude she'd helped the other day. Meanwhile, in the Count's meeting room, someone was totally freaking out like, what are we gonna do? We need a plan. Another noble was just complaining. He was whining that nobody could have guessed things would blow up this badly. The Count just said that the lawyer would be there any minute and they'd figure out all the legal drama once he arrived. All of a sudden, someone starts banging on the door like crazy. A butler swings it open and yells, we have an emergency! He runs in shouting, His Highness Prince Kyle is here. The Count looked completely shook. He was thinking, what the heck is that brat doing here? He was just trying to process it. He knew an investigation was coming, but he had zero clue why the prince himself would show up. The butler asked him what the game plan was. Someone else chimed in that they were waiting for his orders. Lloyd told him that as soon as the consultant shows up, he needs to hit the main building ASAP. And he told him not to talk to anyone until he got the call. Everyone nodded. The butler piped up again. We really need to do something about the prince. The count just put his head in his hands and asked for a minute to think. Standing up, he ordered, "Bring me my best suit, escort the prince to the entrance hall, and tell him I'll be there in a minute." The butler nodded and bolted. He pointed to a guy named Harrison. "Go to the servants' quarters and get everyone who's there." Then he told Nate to get all the soldiers away from the entrance so the prince doesn't get the wrong idea about what we're doing. Rushing out the door, he told the rest of the guys to follow him. They all just stood there hesitating. The count said, "Look, if you're scared the prince is gonna pull his sword on you and you don't show, you're gonna look even more suspicious, like you're totally guilty." He was trying to pump them up, saying, "Even if we can't outrank the prince together, at least we can intimidate him with our numbers." Over in the main hall, the prince was sitting on a throne in the center like he owned the place, while the count was bowing low, trying to look all respectful. Prince Kyle said, "It's been about 2 years since we last saw each other, huh?" In his head, the count was thinking that the kid hadn't changed at all, rocking that same smug look he had when he left. Them stranded in the same spot for a whole month back in the day. He was just fuming about how arrogant this kid was. But out loud, he just said, "Yes, it has been 2 years. The last time was at the Empire's border." The prince put a hand on his chin and agreed. "Ah, yes, the plains of Pantheon are a never-ending headache. Always feels like a place for smuggling and non-stop fights." He finished by asking, "So did you manage to take care of all the rats in that region?" The count, super annoyed, but keeping his cool, replied, "Yes, and I'll never forget the grace your highness showed me on that occasion." The prince said, "I was afraid my visit would be too late, but I finally managed to respond to your invitation." And then he just took a long, slow sip of his tea. The count is straight up clueless, asking what invite the prince is even talking about, basically like, "My bad, bro, I'm drawing a total blank." All the other Bouget nobles are whispering, looking hella confused. Like maybe there was some huge rager they all forgot to put on their Google Cal. The prince just cracks up like, "Whoa, didn't realize you were being serious, my guy," and says he probably ghosted their DMs from like 2 years ago. So flashback 2 years. The prince and the count from House Elias are chopping it up about all the shady stuff happening in the region. Lloyd's all like, "Nah, we don't mess with any of that sketchy business." Kyle's like, "Yeah, so we got a tip. We got to scope out the area, so it'd be clutch if you guys cooperated." The count clapped back, saying the Elias fam doesn't mess with any illegal deals and that it's gotta be fake news. They spent a whole frickin' month searching the border. And get this, the nobles were totally shook when they found a ton of super luxe stuff in their bags. Turning to the count, the prince drops some old school wisdom, basically saying, "You are the company you keep." Meanwhile, a servant pulls some seriously high-end fabric out of a chest. The prince keeps going like, "Real talk, your house isn't exactly living up to its rep as one of the Empire's major players." The count is bright red. I mean, they found one tiny piece of fabric that wasn't on the books, and he's totally freaking out on the inside. All nervous. He thanks them for finding the rats who did it, and promises they'll make things right to thank his highness for being so cool about it. Then the prince is like, "You do realize bribery is also like super illegal, right?" The count, who's literally sweating buckets now, is like, "Whoa, it's just my way of showing my appreciation. I'd love to have you over, your highness. Not as a bribe, Avi." The prince is like, "For dinner, are you seriously inviting me over?" The count's all, "Absolutely, it would be a massive honor." Then the prince just laughs and asks how big his entourage is, saying he'll take him up on that offer when he gets a chance. Then he tells Count Elias to like keep a tighter leash on his stuff. So flash forward to now, and the count's all like, since they hadn't spoken in ages, he was completely blindsided by him just showing up. The prince is like, "That's cap," and says he didn't send a heads up because it would have been way too much pressure and would have looked like he was rolling in for an official inspection. You know, as a prince instead of just a friend. Lloyd's like, "Fair enough," and says a chill, friendly visit is always cool with them, and finishes by inviting him to dinner. The other nobles are in the background whispering like mad with absolutely no idea what's happening. The prince keeps talking, saying it'd be super rude to bounce so soon after getting an invite to such a sick house, which is why he completely cleared his schedule for the next 2 days. The count is shooketh, internally spiraling about how he's gonna deal with the prince crashing at his place for 2 entire days, trying to figure out what that shady dude is plotting. Meanwhile, over in the meeting room, the lawyer is giving Victoria the 411, telling her she has to spill everything. But the most important thing is to never ever admit she knew the wine was sketchy. She's like, "But am I gonna get my money back?" The butler politely tells her to forget about the cash for a minute, and that her #1 priority right now is to play the victim. Victoria gets super pissed. She slaps her legs and goes, "How can I not be worried? I mean, she spent forever saving up for this."